I don't have anything to do here. Please raise your hand. That's okay. I'll walk through this.
Can you check the microphone? Do you have the microphone?
There's a microphone, right? All right. Is it on?
Yeah.
Cool. So that's gonna be complicated because those kind of microphones go really, really bad with long beards. So if you hear some weird stuff while I'm talking like this, I apologize. All right. So, creating offline IoT experience with beacons. Who has ever played with the beacons before? One can do. Good, good. Who has no idea what a beacon is? Nice. That's good news because I have some style with beacon. So that's who I am. My name is Laurent. As I said, I'm the counterpart of William Heng, who is a cash-based developer advocate based in New York. That submitted this talk about beacons. I'm based in Paris. You can find me on Twitter. You can send me an email. That's a tag cloud of stuff I like. But that's enough about me because we're already late. So what's a beacon? That's a lighthouse. A lighthouse emits a signal to anyone that wants to see that signal. It's just broadcasting to the world. It's not broadcasting something in particular like you would have with Wi-Fi, because you want to send it Wi-Fi, this kind of thing. It's just, hey, here's a signal, and do whatever you want with it. If you're on a boat, then that's great, because that's what you want. You want a signal to help you in the context of where you are, which is on the sea, to find where you're going, which is port. That's what a beacon is. The beacon we want to talk about today looks more like this. This is a small pieces of hardware. There's different sizes of beacons. Those are common ones from Common Beacons Company. And what they all have in common is this thing that they run on Bluetooth LE. The full version of Bluetooth. It's low energy. With I guess with a key of that size, you can, that's probably that big. Battery can last up to 2-3 years because Beacon doesn't broadcast much information. It broadcasts the UID. It broadcasts 3 AID. The UID, like a 16-byte big, non-human readable UID, and 2 additional ID, major version, minor version. That's the iBeacon version. iBeacon is the Apple standard of beacon introduced by Apple when I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe more. I'm pretty new to that beacon stuff. Before William told me it existed, I had no idea what it was. So I'm a 2-week-old baby in terms of beacon. So I think it's 3, 4 years old. It's an Apple thing, but of course it's Bluetooth, right? So everything that works with Bluetooth, it works with it works. And as I said, there's a UID, 3 different in the minor version. There's 2 other stuff that you find in most beacon standards. There's a byte to tell you about the range of the beacon you want it to work. From a range perspective, a beacon like this, Bluetooth LE is about 50 meters, and you can decide of that range. You can configure that range using that odd byte. So it's very much used for indoor stuff. And GPS is something outdoors. You know how GPS works, pretty much the same thing. It's broadcasting stuff. It's localizing something, but it's outdoors. There is no limit of range satellite. Wi-Fi has a broader limit of range. NFC has a very small range limit, probably at 10 centimeters. RFID is probably about 100 centimeters, so it's quite small too. The best, from a size perspective, way of emitting something is Bluetooth, and it's low energy. It's much less consuming than Wi-Fi. So yes, they have a byte to tell you to configure the range of emission of a beacon. There's another byte that can be used to maybe tell you about the battery of the beacon. And then some other standards like AltBeacon or Edison Beacon. AltBeacon, Edison Beacon. Edison is the one on the bottom. It's a Google thing. It's new. It started a year ago, and it allows you to broadcast actually much more information. One of the interesting things with beacon is telemetry. It's a good use case. telemetry, you're basically broadcasting one stuff, which is a temperature, a battery level, just a small sensor that gives you one thing at one time. So that's what it is. It's a beacon. It's just emitting stuff, which is nice. But if you don't have an app that works with that beacon, then it's absolutely useless. So obviously you have to write an app that knows the UID of the beacon, the different version number of the beacon, and when it receives that signal, it can do stuff. So quickly, some use cases about beacon. There was a lot of people very excited in marketing and sales about enriching the user experience of people based on the context. What that means is, if you're on a store and you're walking around the store with your phone app and getting close to a beacon, and you might have a notification that says, hey, this thing on the right is on sale, it's 50% sales for people that have the app. Okay? So it lets you give notification, give something back to a user based on where he is, usually indoors. It can serve other purpose. If you tend to lose stuff, like a VGA Mac adapter, that happens, maybe you could add a beacon on this thing, and your phone will know what that beacon is. And when the beacon, which is your adapter, is good, not in range anymore with your phone will say, you just lost your damn thingy. It's not on my range anymore. Where is it? That work with skiing, that work with other stuff, that work with a bike. You put that on a bike, go grab a beer, and then if your phone is saying your bike is moving, then someone is probably stealing your bike. Great use case, you're in a museum, and you have the app open, and you walk among the very cool thing in the museum, and each time you walk next to your beacon, the beacon tells you, okay, so that's what it is, that's who made this beautiful art thing, and that's why you did it. Information in context of where you are. Tracking sounds bad, but that could perfectly be used for tracking stuff. In Amazon, big thing where they store stuff, places where they store things. They use RFID tag to actually locate things. You could also use beacons too. As I said, use stuff. Telemetry, scavenger hunts. When you go to conferences, they want you take the app of the conference, and they want to make sure that you go to every places you have to go to. So each time you approach a beacon with your app will say, oh, you've been here. So that's sort of a gamification thing. You're in FOSDEM. You're completely lost. My first time. Who is his first time at FOSDEM here? That's my first time. Okay. I got lost so many times already today. Beacon could help. If you have the venue map on the app and that can actually tell you based on where you are and what to do, that would be nice. Because I got lost. Anyway. Question is, what's Couchbase Developer Advocate doing here? Because I'm working for a NoSQL company. I work in database. I have no reason to be here. Well, we have this thing called Couchbase Mobile, and it's here to handle one problem, which is no bars. No problem. No bars has no reception on your phone. You're out of network. You don't have anything anymore. If you have an app that relies just on internet, then your app doesn't work. So it's a wonderful animation to explain that to you. You're connected to the cloud because you have network. That's great. You have a very poor reception. That's great. And from a user perspective, waiting. Everybody hates that. You don't have network anymore, and then your app doesn't work because it requires to be online. So if your beacon app, when you find a beacon, requires you to do a call to the server and say, what am I supposed to do with that beacon? And you have no internet connection, and basically that beacon is useless. Because again, it's just emitting an ID. It says, hey, I'm a beacon, my name is that thing, I'm version 1.2. Please do something. But then if you don't have any internet connection, can't do something. So usually from a mobile app perspective, you end up having a very frustrated user because the app doesn't work because you have no network. It has to be online to work. And it's the same for several beacon apps. Your app has to be online to get the info that's supposed to show you based on the idea of the beacon. That's a very generic presentation of cache-based model. People uninstall stuff because your app sucks, because it's freezing, crashing, or because it's slow. Usually slow can be associated with having no network. Sometimes it doesn't even work. The problem is data allocation. To make this work, you have to have local data and be able to sync the data when you have network, when you're on it. That's the idea, to make it to have the best user experience possible. There's too many animation on the slides. And then you have a very happy user that gives you a great rating and that will keep on using your app, which is great. So again, what am I doing here? We have this thing called cache-based mobile. It's based off two things, cache-based Lite and the Sync Gateway. Cache-based Lite is an embedded database. So when you run this database in your app, on your phone, or on the Raspberry, or anything, if you're not connected to the internet, that's fine. You have a local database, you have the data. And then once you're connected to the internet, maybe you want to get an update on what the data is. Because Beacon, as I said, is just this thing that's going to stay for 2 or 3 years, depending on the battery life of the thing. And maybe you want to repurpose that beacon. Let's take that supermarket example again. You're walking down the alley, and then there's notification that says, oh, this product is on sale. Once this product is fully sold, you probably need to display another notification using the same beacon, because you're not going to replace every beacon this time you have to. It's very expensive. So you have to repurpose your beacon. In order to do that, if that data was on the local database, and you need to sync back to the server and get the new definition, the new message to display based on what's now on sale. That's what we have the Sync Gateway, which is an app server, basically, that syncs the local database to the online big cache-based NoSQL server. That's what it does. That's how you do offline stuff with Beacon, basically. I could stop my talk here. I'm not gonna, because I have 10 minutes to do a demo and talk more about cache-based mobile. Cache-based Lite, 4 important things. It's document-based. When you store something in that local database, you just store a JSON file. And a JSON file, from a Java perspective, is just a map of string and object. This is extremely normal, basic stuff. There's no SQL or anything. You're just taking one object, JSON, and storing it in the database. Which is great, because now everybody's speaking about JSON. You know, all the HTTP API, REST API, they all speak JSON. You don't have any XML database because XML is dying. We have JSON stuff. If you have a database, usually what you want to do is query the content of the database. Cache-based Lite allow you to query the content of the JSON based on what we call an incremental map reduce function. Who knows what map reduce is, and should I explain map reduce quickly?
Those were 2 separate questions.
Yes, it was. I will explain anyway. A map function takes a document, like a JSON file, and allows you to do something with it, like add an entry to an index, which is exactly what we're doing here when we write an incremental map reduce function. Each time you add or modify or delete a document in the database, we will run the map function on that thing, that document, and if doc.types equals beacon visit, then emit entry in index whatever. You've created an index, which is basically a 2-column table. There's a key, there's a value, and you can query that. That's how you query the content of the JSON file with cache-based Lite. 2 other important things. That lightning thing is here to tell you that this is all event-driven, in the sense that you don't have to. It's fully asynchronous. You don't have to tell the server, hey, give me the update, wait for the update to happen, then have the update, then do the query again. There's a listener model, basically. So you can listen to document changes and do stuff while they change. It's important to have this model because when you go offline and online again, there's one thing that can happen, that happens often. You have some synchronization issue. I've updated the document while offline. Someone updated it already and synced the updated version on the server. There's a newer version online than the one I have on my phone and that I updated. So I have a conflict, and the good thing is with a listener model like this, you can listen to conflicts, and when you have a conflict, you can decide what to do with the conflict. Am I going to override everything? Am I going to do a merge based on the content of my document? There is no way to do automatic conflict merge because that's very tied to your business model. So there's really nothing we can do from an automatic perspective. So with the listener, we give you the ability to decide how to merge these conflicting documents. And then the other part with the reload sign is the sync gateway. You can sync the content of your local database to the server side of things, which is basically saying when you're online, you can update your database because when you're offline, you still want everything to work. Which is why I'm here, because offline is important because you don't have network all the time. Let's say you're at a music festival, there's beacon everywhere to basically track where people are going. When you're at a music festival, try using your phone and call your friends. Everybody's doing this, so the network doesn't work. There's no internet. It's fact. In IT conferences, it works better. I'm actually surprised that the Wi-Fi here works pretty well. But when it doesn't work, you still want to know where people go. So when you're walking around with your phone and the app as a service in the background that's basically storing every time you go next to a beacon, we can store that offline. And then when you go back online one day because you finally got the internet back because you got back home from the festival, then you can send all your information to the database, the festival people, and now they can say, oh, there was way too many waits in this area, or we should probably make that thing bigger or whatever. Quick sample of code, iOS version, Android version. As I said, a JSON file is just a map or a dictionary. There's a key, there's a field, very simple. I have 5 minutes to talk about a sync gateway, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to use those 5 minutes to hopefully do a working demo, which is always this weird thing to say, working demo. How do you test those beacon things? There's many ways to do that. Basically, what you require is a Bluetooth thing. I have a Raspberry Pi with a Bluetooth key, and I was supposed to plug this somewhere with my battery that I have here, so I'm not going to do it anyway. But I have another Bluetooth key here. So I'm running this image called Virtual Beacon, which is just a Debian instance that allow you to transmit stuff like, hey, I'm a beacon, get my data. So I run alt beacon transmit. Hopefully this will work, which now don't, and it's frozen, but that's okay. I will run my Android virtual machine, which hopefully also has, that's my small micro USB Bluetooth key. It's going to run. Okay. Let me make sure that my SIM gateway is running. It is running. That's good news. And it just picked up my beacon. That's a Debian Hello VM beacon, which is good. What I want to do now is pretend that the beacon purpose has changed. So I'm going to repurpose my beacon by updating my document, which is a JSON document, which is working. Don't do demos that totally never work. What's wrong? So the goal of that demo was, let me restart the server. See what's going on. All right. I'm assuming I have network issues.
It's also local on your machine.
Yes, it is. I need to be on the same network as everyone. I need to reach on the network and it should work. Should. Do I have internet? I don't. Sucks because that means I cannot go to my page of my virtual machine to my computer, which is why it's not working, which is extremely sad.
Can you try the FOSDEM fallback?
FOSDEM fallback? Maybe I did something with the other. I did something with the other. That should be better. I hope it's because I have two demos today. One that require a NAT configuration with my VM and the other bridge configuration with my VM, and I was bridged. And hopefully that's the reason why this is not working. Hopefully. Yes. Alright, so what was supposed to happen is I was supposed to go on the SYN gateway, documents, no. Take my user, the other user, look at that document that said Debian hello VM beacon and let's say for whatever. Save the document, so I'm repurposing my beacon, go back to my app, launch the damn thing, and see that it's not saying, it's now saying FOSDEM something, somewhere, which is not. Well, that was what was going to happen. It's not happening for some reason. And I don't know why. Unfortunately, I cannot show you code, but as I said, the code is pretty straightforward. You have database objects, you have a map, you store the map in the database, done. And then you have this thing called a push replication or a pull replication, which is to say I'm pushing data to the server or pulling data to the server. What's supposed to happen here is I'm pulling data through the SYN gateway to the local database to repurpose my beacon. And that doesn't work because there's a networking issue. And I'm sad, and I should have done a video. As I said, maybe you should have a different thing. So that's it. Thank you very much. I was late. I'm going to do a tutorial.